The software looked like a game, but the first screen asked for workplace credentials, an employee ID, and a 6-digit password. Customers could not buy it. Stores were expected to keep the cartridges inside the training system. Years later, copies began escaping into collector markets, and the password became the least difficult part of the story. There were actually two major programs. The eCrew development program trained new hires. A rarer package called eSMART 2.0 targeted existing staff and management tasks. The first was recovered and documented in 2020. The second kept surfacing in private sales, then disappearing again, until preservationists reportedly pooled 300,000 yen to secure a copy in January 2022. A corporate training tool had become one of the strangest missing branches of the Nintendo DS library. The choice made sense in Japan at the time. The Nintendo DS was familiar, portable, cheap compared with dedicated training terminals, and built around a touchscreen. New employees could practice procedures without occupying a register or slowing a kitchen. McDonald's framed the program as a way to shorten training and make instruction consistent across locations. That practical purpose explains the software's unusual design. It uses bright menus, mascots, quizzes, and simulated tasks, but the reward is not defeating a boss. The reward is performing a job correctly. For game historians, that makes it easy to overlook. It was never marketed through normal retail channels, yet it ran on consumer hardware and used many of the same design techniques as commercial software. Early coverage often blended the programs together. The eCrew development program, usually shortened to ECDP, focused on new employee training. eSMART 2.0 was a different and apparently rarer package for existing workers. Both used McDonald's branding and DS hardware, so photographs were easy to mislabel. Keeping them separate changes the timeline. A collector obtaining ECDP did not mean every McDonald's training cartridge had been preserved. When ECDP footage finally spread, the more elusive eSMART software was still missing from public documentation. This is a recurring lost media problem. One find creates the impression that a category is solved. In reality, the label on the cartridge matters. The training setup also depended on more than the cartridge. Restaurant deployment involved configured handhelds, credentials, and an organizational process that collectors did not automatically inherit. A loose cartridge could be genuine and still refuse to reveal much. Researchers had to determine which hardware it expected, how the login behaved, and whether any functions depended on a network or store-specific data. That is why early ownership did not instantly equal preservation. The object had escaped its workplace, but the workplace context had not escaped with it. The software was never mythical. News reports showed the training program in use. Collectors posted photographs. Forum threads tracked cartridge labels, bundles, and passwords. The problem was access. A copy might appear in an auction, sell into a private collection, and vanish from view. Owning the physical item gave a collector control over the only known path to the data. That scarcity pushed prices up and made preservation dependent on whoever won. The Assembler Games discussions and later videos preserved the long period when researchers could describe the object without being able to inspect all of its contents. This is lost by bottleneck. The media survives, but too few people can reach it. In 2020, the eCrew development program crossed that bottleneck. A cartridge and compatible hardware setup were obtained, the password problem was solved, and the software could be recorded in detail. Viewers finally saw the menu flow, training modules, and strangely polished presentation that had been reduced to a few press images. The recovery was not just one dramatic upload. It depended on hardware knowledge, documentation, and the willingness to show how the login system worked. Once ECDP was accessible, people could distinguish its features from eSMART 2.0 instead of guessing from cartridge photos. The find clarified the remaining target. The recovered footage is fascinating because it sits between simulation and instruction. Employees move through lessons on food preparation, hygiene, equipment, and customer service. The interface uses game-like feedback to make repetition less punishing, but the system is not pretending the work is fantasy. It is teaching a standardized process. That makes the software a record of labor as much as a record of game design. It captures how a major company translated restaurant routines into touchscreen interactions in 2010. A retail game might survive because people loved it. This survived because a small group realized that corporate software can document everyday life just as clearly. The employee login attracted attention because it made the software feel forbidden. Finding a usable code was satisfying, but it solved only the front door. Researchers still needed to identify the program version, record every menu, and understand which screens represented real training rather than debug functions. Sensational coverage tends to stop at "secret McDonald's game unlocked." Preservation begins after that headline. The value is in documenting what the program taught, how it structured lessons, and how it differed from the second cartridge. eSMART 2.0 was harder. Copies were rarer, and the software had already become valuable enough that private ownership could outrun public preservation. Cadi Trentuit documented attempts to locate it and the frustration of watching leads disappear. The title became a collector's trophy precisely because researchers wanted to study it. That creates a bad feedback loop. Attention raises the price. A higher price makes collaborative preservation harder. Every failed sale risks moving the only accessible copy farther from people equipped to dump and document it. By late 2021, the preservation problem was not finding proof that eSMART existed. It was finding enough money, trust, and coordination to keep one sale from ending in another private shelf. In January 2022, preservationists announced that eSMART 2.0 had been acquired and preserved after a group reportedly paid 300,000 yen. The price is startling, but it exposes the economics of private media recovery. The group was not buying a luxury edition. It was buying access to data that might otherwise disappear into another collection. Forest of Illusion documented the preservation announcement, while reports explained the years-long search. Once the software was dumped and examined, the second major McDonald's DS program finally had a stable record. The password was no longer the central lock. The real locks have been scarcity, ownership, and price. Collector culture and preservation overlap, but they are not identical. A collector can keep an object in excellent physical condition while withholding the data. A preservation group can document the software while still respecting that copyright remains with its owners. The McDonald's cartridges forced that tension into the open because so few copies were known. Public pressure can help, but it can also antagonize the only person holding an item. Successful recovery usually requires a relay. Somebody buys the hardware, somebody understands the security, somebody dumps the data, somebody documents the interface, and somebody keeps the provenance attached. No single dramatic finder replaces that chain. Once the software was accessible, preservation still required a readable record. Raw data can survive while future users lose the hardware knowledge, passwords, or context needed to interpret it. Videos of complete menu paths, cartridge photographs, hashes, version notes, and a timeline of custody make the recovery durable. They also let researchers compare later copies without redistributing every file. The McDonald's case became stronger when collectors, technical researchers, and documentarians contributed different pieces instead of treating the dump as the finish line. McDonald's did not make these cartridges for game collectors. It made them to solve a training problem inside restaurants. That is why they nearly fell outside every normal preservation route. They were not retail products, not public promotional demos, and not meant to remain useful after the workplace system changed. Yet they preserve a very specific meeting point between a global company, a handheld console, and the ordinary work of learning a job. The eCrew program and eSMART 2.0 are now documented because researchers kept separating rumor from cartridge label, and because a group was willing to turn an expensive private object into a historical record. The login screen looked like the barrier. The harder problem was getting the cartridge into hands that would open the record after the password worked. That difference is what turns access into preservation.